Yes, what you're looking at now is 4K gaming on a thin and light 16-inch premium content creation laptop. Wolf. Righto, tellyo there champs. Now I guess you have it right there. This thing can 4K game. But it is not a gaming laptop. Of course I'm talking about the ThinkPad X1 Extreme Gen 4 16-inch with 11th gen Intel parts. So the one I have has an i9-11950H and a 16GB RTX 3080. Yes, this thin and light premium package here, which is a creator laptop. Remember, you got to be comparing this to the XPS 17, XPS 15, MacBook Pro 16, those sort of things. Not gaming laptops, because this is not a gaming laptop. Believe me, you'll see why. But the amount of power you have in this compared to the competition that I just mentioned is, wow, it is next level. I mean, the competition caps out at a, RTX 3060, low wattage one. This is a 100 watt RTX 3080. And I maxed this thing out. Okay, we have 64 gigs RAM. Yes, 64 gigs RAM, 2 terabyte SSD, PCI Express 4.0, of course. So that helps with loading with the games, makes them load faster. And when Windows 11 gets its act together and you have direct storage, PCI Express 4 is where you want to be. So that will help with gaming as well. And I kid you not, spec'd up to this spec, you're talking about 8K in Australia, something like that, and $5,000 US. Of course, you can upgrade the RAM and SSD yourself. I suggest you do that. Just get base model RAM, base model SSD and upgrade it yourself, which is what I done. So I did not pay those prices, believe me. And yes, I will be comparing this to its contemporaries, but also I'll make a video in the future. Make sure you sub up for that, but I'm going to be comparing this to the Legion 7, which may seem like a strange comparison. But the reality is I'm choosing between these two laptops which one I'm going to keep, and I'll tell you which one I keep and why. But nevertheless, it's fair to say gaming wise this will not compete with the Legion 7, but it will destroy MacBook Pro 16 if you want a Windows game on that. Not the M1X version. Well, we'll talk about that in the future. Sub up for that. I will have a lot of M1X coverage with the new Macs. But in terms of gaming, you can 4K game on this. You can't do that on the XPS 17 or even the XPS 15. There's no chance. Now, I think the first cab off the rank with this is, believe you me, this is one of the best displays I've seen on a laptop. 16-inch. 4K plus, so 3840 by 2400, 600 nits of brightness, anti-reflective coating, anti-smudge, because I do have the touch version, 100% Adobe RGB and Dolby Vision. Wow, this display is amazing. It's factory calibrated. I just don't have higher praise for this display other than saying it's one of the best displays. There is one good thing about it. The games never look better than they do on this. And yes, you can game 4K. I would suggest if you're going to be playing harder games like Cyberpunk, Red Dead, Flight Simulator and stuff like that, you want to be playing at 1600p. You don't want to be playing 4K on those games. But even at 16p, the games look amazing. Absolutely stunning display. But there is a but. It is a 60Hz display and it's not a particularly fast display. If you're playing a first-person shooter, you're going to notice when you're panning left and right, it's not the fastest display in the world. It is high quality. I gotta say, when I race, like play a racing game on it, beautiful. I don't notice that it's that slow. It doesn't make me drunk or anything like that. Good for that. But first person shooters, when you're panning quickly, you're gonna know it's not a fast display. So I guess if you're used to 60Hz, it's not gonna bother you. And some games, it didn't even bother me at all. But you do want to keep at that 60 frames per second and above. And you're better off at 1600 rather than 4K, because it's gonna be, worse at 4K as the frames sort of drop when you pan or whatever. But if you're not playing first person shooters and that, you're going to get a great gaming experience on this. Car racing, I loved it. It was really nice for that. GTA 5 will be good for something like that. An adventure game, it's going to be good. But yeah, fast-paced first-person shooters or something, where you're whipping around all the time, it's not a great display for that sort of thing. Now, when it comes to gaming performance, if I was going to sum up the gaming performance here, compared to its competition, it's much better. Compared to a gaming laptop like the Legion 7i, you're going to cry. So even though it does have the same sort of parts as a Legion 7i, the Legion 7i can use at least 100 watts more than this. CPU and GPU together, you're talking about 125 watts. Of course, in the gaming scenario, when the temperatures go up and hit, it seems to be 90 degrees, those clocks will come down, the wattage will come down. So it's not going to hold 125 watts indefinitely. And you know, you got things like dynamic boost and stuff like that, which is just like a mystery what happens there. But you're easily going to be doing 30, 40 watts more than say an XPS 17. And as I said, it is a 100 watt RTX 3080. Most of the time you're probably using 80 watts, and the CPU can vary from, you know, 20 watts to 30, 40, whatever. Now I will say the gaming experience is really nice in terms of it doesn't just hit a, you know, 90 degrees and then just throttle down dramatically and the frames stutter, and it's very slow ramping up and down of the wattage, all controlled by the thermals. You know, once it gets towards the 90 degrees on the GPU and CPU, then the wattage will come down. So it is pretty hot in there. The GPU gets hot and the CPU, they do get towards the 90s, but what do you expect in such a thin and light package here? I was hoping it would do sort of 140 watts total, like, you know, the Slim 7 does, which is the sort of same sort of package, but that thing has like jet engines at the back. You're not going to do that in this sort of form factor. One big surprise about this laptop is it has a MUX switch. Yes, you can go into the BIOS and turn it into discrete mode, but it's really annoying because one, you have to go into the BIOS and do it, and every time you're going to have to unlock your encrypted hard drive because you've made a change in BIOS. Because remember, this is a ThinkPad, so it's made for commercial, enterprise, the high-flying executive, okay? Security is first and foremost with these things. The drive comes encrypted out of the box. So really, unless you unencrypt your drive, you're not going to be going into the BIOS and changing into discrete mode. You're probably just going to leave it in hybrid mode. That being said, I did test it in discrete mode. Marginally faster, really, within error of margin there, so I wouldn't even bother. I think when it comes to MUX switches, it makes more of a difference with, you know, AMD laptops rather than Intel. I don't think the difference with Intel laptops is as big, certainly not in this case anyway. So to sum up gaming performance, I would say most games you'll be able to play 4K, pretty much 60 FPS, no problem. Demanding games, you're going to have to go down to 16p, and even then, some of the demanding games, you're going to probably have to use DLSS, so maybe Cyberpunk and Red Dead. You want to be doing that. You can actually play those games at 4K as well with DLSS, but you're better off sticking to 16p with demanding titles. 4K is no problem on a lot of titles. In fact, most titles you'll be able to play 4K up around near that 60 high settings, okay? If you go to Ultra, probably not, but high settings, definitely. So at the end of the day, I'm going to call it definitely a 16p or 1440p gamer, high settings, Ultra settings, no problem. But you can 4K game on this as well, and it does have HDMI 2.1, so you can connect it to your fancy LG 4K, you know, OLED, 120Hz G-Sync TV, and yes, you'll be able to game 4K. Definitely not at 120Hz though. You want to be going 1600 if you want to use more than 60 FPS. And if you did want high refresh gaming, you probably, you know, want to go down to 1600 or 1080 if you use an external monitor or something like that. But yeah, I got to say, in the creator realm here, it is the most powerful in the creator realm. There's no doubt about it. The game's the best in the creator realm, but it's not a gaming laptop, and the gaming laptop will be much faster with the same sort of parts, especially like the Legion 7. So I'm happy with the gaming performance though. That's perfectly enough gaming performance for me. It's only like 50 decibels. The keyboard doesn't get that hot. And actually, from where you're sitting, it's only like 46 decibels under full load. So yeah, it's pretty good. Use a laptop cooler, you're going to love it. So catch you in the next one, guys. Stay tuned for my full review. I will be comparing it to Legion 7 and other laptops, of course. The M1 Max. Can't wait for that. So anyway, catch you in the next one. Tally ho.